founder of the Young Turks, CENK Uygur, announced his 2024 campaign for president against President Joe Biden last month, advocating for paid family leave, higher wages, affordable health insurance, and more.
2024 Democratic presidential candidate CENK Uygur joins us now to break down the latest from his campaign. All right, CENK, why are you running? And great to have you with us.
Thank you. There's a very clear reason why I'm running. There's actually two reasons, but the first one and most important one is shown by a new poll out yesterday, Quinnipiac. Biden's at 37% favorable, 59% unfavorable. If you think that Joe Biden is going to recover from being 22 points underwater, you live on a different planet. No political analyst in their right mind would say that this guy has a higher than 10% chance of winning. And you remove the names, Democrat, Republican, Biden, Trump, and you show any political analyst the current state of affairs, with Biden being down 24 points on the economy, losing in almost every swing state, down by 10 points to independents, 15 points lower than when he barely beat Trump in the Electoral College last time. And every analyst will tell you that guy is almost definitely going to lose. So what I'm trying to do is basically grab the wheel of the Titanic and move it. Move it. Let's go. I'm not going to voluntarily run into this iceberg. I don't care what every idiot Democratic leadership guy at the DNC in Washington thinks. Oh, I bet the Titanic doesn't sink. I bet a guy at 37% can win an election. Well, that's just feeding into Joe Biden's egomaniac. He's one of the most selfish politicians I have ever seen in my lifetime. He said that he'd be a transition president. He's 80 years old. 77% of Republicans don't even think he's going to make it through a second term. Get out of the race, Joe. That's why I'm in. And, look, everybody else is too polite. You got to push this guy out. The only thing he cares about is his ego. I want to be a two-term president. It's better for my legacy. Get out of the race, Joe. You're going to ruin the Democratic Party. You're going to ruin this country, and you're going to hand it over to a fascist. That's the number one reason I'm in the race.
So I take your point about Joe Biden completely, but I think the follow-up question that people are going to have is why you, especially since there are other people challenging Biden already in the Democratic Party, including Marianne Williamson, who is already occupying a kind of left-leaning role, and Dean Phillips, who is running as a centrist, who's basically a younger version of Joe Biden. Why you?
Yeah. Do you see anyone making the points as loudly and clearly as I am? Look, I love Marianne Williamson. I think she's got terrific courage. She's been in this from day one, and I think the press has been terribly unfair to her. And I like that Dean had the courage to come in, and I agree with some of his stances like money in politics, but there's others that I don't agree with. And even if you say, hey, CENK, I like one of those two better than I like you, fine, no problem. The more voices saying, Joe Biden, get out, you're at 37%, you egomaniac, clown, fool, get out of the race, the better, okay? If I had my druthers, I would have almost every Democratic governor in this race. They would all start 10 points higher than Biden. Why is the Democratic Party voluntarily starting 10 points lower? Because they don't want to offend the feelings of the beloved, dear leader? What kind of weirdo authoritarian party did the Democratic Party turn into? And now the DNC is going around the country trying to block me from the ballots. So apparently they think I'm the biggest threat. And I am, because I'm going to snap Washington and Democrats out of their trance. This guy is not it. I don't want to voluntarily lose to Donald Trump. And so, look, I'm all over media making this case. If Marianne and Dean are making it too, great. If Whitmer and Pritzker and Shapiro want to come in, great. But let's go. Let's get a real candidate so we don't purposely lose to Donald Trump.
Can you talk to us about your ballot access plans and overcoming the fact that you were born in Turkey and the Constitution has a requirement that people for serving as president are born in this country, or maybe you dispute that or think that would be litigated before the courts? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, that's the second reason I'm in the race, because that ideology, I get where it comes from. People who think that don't have bad intent, right? We all learned in 8th grade, oh my God, you got to be born in America. And what that led to is 25 million naturalized citizens. Every time we say we're not born here, people go, you can't run for president. Now, that's a tiny minor thing. Most of those 25 million are not going to run for president. But that's not the point, guys. The point is, every time we hear that, And almost all of us have heard that hundreds of times in our lives. What we hear is, you're not one of us. You're a second-class citizen. You're not really fully American. And that drives me crazy. And as soon as I started writing, I got nothing but text messages and emails from naturalized citizens going, yes, thank you for finally saying it. Why are we the only second-class citizens? It makes no sense at all. And on legal grounds, it is totally, utterly wrong. People say, well, it's in the Constitution. Yeah, there's a lot of things in the original Constitution that aren't pertinent anymore. For example, in the original Constitution, it said that black folks were 3/5 of a person. If people went around going, it's in the Constitution, it's in the Constitution, that means they just don't understand the Constitution at all. There are things called amendments. What they do is amend the Constitution. The 14th Amendment says very, very, very clearly, all persons born or naturalized have equal protection. They didn't say asterisks. They didn't say maybe. They didn't say read my mind. I don't really mean equal when I say equal, and I don't really mean naturalized when I say naturalized. It's very clear. It's right there in the 14th Amendment. That has been amended out, and I'm going to fix that. I'm going to go to court, and I'm going to win.
But equal protection under the law and the right to run for president are two different things. So I don't actually disagree with you. I think in an ideal world, I too think that naturalized citizens should be able to run for president. I think a lot of conservatives felt that way when they were angling for Arnold Schwarzenegger to potentially do a run. I have no ideological objection to it. But we did fight a civil war that was to date the bloodiest a war that America has ever faced in order to get the constitutional changes that you're describing. And in the event horizon of this 2024 election, I do think there's people who are going to ask, is it worth investing financially or emotionally in this campaign when the likelihood of that rule change going into effect before 2024 is so slim? Is this just a symbolic candidacy? And do we need another one of those when we have Jill Stein and Cornel West and Marianne Williamson and others in the race already?
Yeah, no. So first of all, like I said, it's not a new thing we have to do. And this is really important. This is going to get resolved well before the general election, because this is not a thing that takes a couple of years. When it comes to elections, the cases get expedited. So you actually don't have to worry about it. It is possible that I lose the court cases. And everyone who's donating to this effort at cenkforamerica.com knows that, right? They know I'm a loud voice against Biden. They know that I would actually deliver for them given the opportunity. And they know I'm trying to win these court cases. And I have an excellent legal argument to make. So I'm representing both the anti-Biden faction and 25 million naturalized citizens that want me to do this. And by the way, everybody said, oh, it's impossible. You can't do it. Except yesterday, we got on the ballot on Arkansas. What happened? I thought you couldn't get on any ballots. I thought all the naysayers and all the doubters and all the haters thought that it was impossible. It turns out that when you try to actually fix things, it is possible. And if everybody in civil rights said, well, it's too hard, let's just not try, then we'd have never gotten anywhere. And yes, this is definitely a civil rights issue. And if you say, I don't care what 25 million naturalized citizens think, I'm going to just keep yelling at them. Ha ha, you're not one of us. You're not one of us. You can't lead us. You could, by the way, you could die for the country. We got 70 Medal of Honor winners who are naturalized citizens. That will take. But you being our leader, it can't happen because we don't trust you. We think you're disloyal and that you might sell us out to the Habsburg dynasty. It is irrational. It is immoral. And actually, it is also unconstitutional. And we're going to prove that in court. cenkforamerica.com.
All right. Do you have feelings on the effort? I think of this because it's kind of similar to what you're saying. There's an effort right now to keep Donald Trump off the ballot on a kind of constitutional technicality argument that in the wake of the Civil War, people who engaged in insurrection were not allowed to be to hold office according to the amendments that passed into the Constitution, and that could be applied to Donald Trump, and that's being litigated. Do you have thoughts and feelings about that?
I mean, look at the irony of this, right? The 14th Amendment says naturalized citizens have equal protection. No asterisks, no but, no anything. Equal means equal. The 14th Amendment also says if you do insurrection against America, you can't run. And the whole country, it feels like, is saying, no, we should do the exact opposite of the 14th Amendment. We should not treat naturalized citizens equally, but we should let insurrectionists run. Are people struggling with the English language? The 14th Amendment is so clear. And so the question is, do you think Donald Trump did an insurrection? And as you know the details of the fake elector scheme, it is unquestionable that he did an insurrection. But I think that the states should be consistent. If you have the blue states leave them off the ballot, the red states put them, that's a mess. The courts need to resolve both of these 14th Amendment issues as soon as possible. And I would say that I have a 20 times better case, 14th Amendment case, than Donald Trump does.
Part of the lack of confidence in Joe Biden among his own voter base has to do with some foreign policy choices he's made of late. Most recently, he referred to Xi as a dictator. And of course, he's been drawing quite a bit of criticism from his own party from not supporting a ceasefire in Gaza. How would you behave differently if you were president?
Oh, I would behave very differently. First of all, I would never send Israel another $14 billion to kill more innocent Palestinians. No way. That's not even close. I would then say no more money to Israel at all. Cut all of their funding until they end the occupation. So I don't want my money as an American taxpayer going to the slaughter of Palestinians. I have no interest in that. It's a moral culpability for all of us. And then later, people go, I don't know why Muslims hate us. I don't know why Palestinians hate us. I mean, we helped Israel kill 11,000 civilians already, 10 times as many civilians as Hamas did. With the bombs we dropped on their children said made in the USA on them. But I don't know why they hate us. But that's why they hate us, because we're murdering their family members right now. We're aiding and abetting that. I would send Israel $0, none, zero. Don't get me wrong. The minute they end this war and they end the occupation and they stop keeping 5 million Palestinians as prisoners, have 56 years of keeping these people as prisoners. Come on. We're worried about the hostages right now that Hamas is holding, and we should be. We should also be worried about the 5 million hostages that Israel's keeping. But the minute they end that moral blight on Israel, then of course, then bring back their funding. We'd love to have Israel back as an ally. I want Israel to be a beautiful, prosperous, loving country. There needs to be a two-state solution. But as long as they keep those hostages, as long as they keep killing Palestinians, no, we should not send them another dime. And by the way, the American people already agree with me. Overwhelming support for a ceasefire. The only people who don't agree are corrupt politicians in Washington. And are we pretending that the massive amount of money, AIPAC, Democratic majority for Israel, defense contractors, and all the people that benefit from these wars isn't affecting Joe Biden and isn't affecting every corrupt politician in Washington? Is that what we're all pretending right now? Yes, my policies would be very different than Joe Biden's. I would actually care about all human beings' lives, not select people.
Can you speak to the situation in Ukraine and our funding of the resistance to Russia there?
So Ukraine's a different matter. See, in Russia is the aggressor. They went in and have attacked. But by the way, unbelievably, the Russians have killed less children than the Israelis have in Gaza. So that doesn't give any pass to the Russians. It just shows you the depth of the brutality of Netanyahu's right-wing government in Israel. I can't stand it. In terms of Ukraine, I want to help them. I want to support them. The question is how much and how long? And those are good questions that need to be further adjudicated by looking at the battlefield and understanding the entire conditions. But guys, also, when we send money to Ukraine or to Israel, it doesn't actually go to them. It goes to defense contractors. People misunderstand the power dynamics. Yes, AIPAC's a giant lobby. Yes, they should be called out. Yes, they're now doing a racist campaign against the black progressives and Muslim progressives in the House. But the defense contractors are much larger. And then there are other factors at play. The oil companies are at play. They want a giant war because it increases their profits in an unbelievable amount. And by the way, Joe Biden is taking huge money from petroleum companies, and we're all supposed to pretend that those bribes don't exist. They do exist. They're definitely bribes, and we need to stop the Democratic leadership from taking nonstop bribes. And so the main money goes to the defense contractors in both Ukraine and Israel. They take all of the profits. They give a little bit of bribes back to all these corrupt politicians, and then they say we're doing it for the people of Ukraine and Israel. So I don't buy it. I would analyze all of those budgets very meticulously before I sent more money.
Thanks so much for joining us today, Cenk.
I appreciate it, guys. Cenk for America. .com and Biden is going to lose.com. Biden is going to lose.com. Snap out of it. He has no chance of winning. Let's get a real strong candidate to fight Republicans. I actually want to fight them as opposed to Joe Biden who wants to take a nap.